Ooh, yeah! Have some giggle cream with everything.
Aw yeah, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. It's been hailed by many GTA fans as being one of the best in the series, just based off of its sheer vibes alone. With the neon lights cascading throughout the city streets and the best hand-picked 80s soundtrack that's ever been curated, Grand Theft Auto Vice City took the foundations of its Liberty City predecessor and built upon it with various gameplay improvements across the board. Plus, we got an entirely new playground to fuel our destructive tendencies with, complete with a whole new story to partake in from the perspective of the legendary Tommy Vercetti, voiced by the late and great Ray Liotta. And on top of that, Vice City was only released a year or so after GTA 3, and it's impressive even to this day how they were able to squeeze out such an amazing game with a vast amount of content in such a small amount of time. You don't get stuff like that nowadays, especially not from Rockstar Games anymore. But thankfully, the modding community for the GTA series never fails to deliver on bringing new content and new ways to play these classic titles that we all know and love. And just like with my last video, the mod author Dinosaur Bites, the one behind the Tightened Thrice mod I covered in my last video, has created a mod for Vice City that expands upon various different aspects of the game, just like with Tightened Thrice, with every mission in the game being completely reworked to bring a tighter gameplay experience to the table, plus with a variety of new outfits, vehicles, new tunes on the radio, and a plethora of Easter eggs to dive into. It all comes together to bring a brand new experience to GTA Vice City. And without further ado, let's talk about GTA Tightened Vice. And by many of requests from my last video, I've been hard at work playing through this mod completely to see what it has to offer. Tightened Vice manages to completely change up every single mission of the game, and I'm not even kidding. I'm talking about everything from story missions, property missions, side missions, diversions, and even the mini games in this game are all changed in some way, absolutely messing with your muscle memory from past playthroughs, and also amping up the difficulty to 11 by changing up many different ways that all the missions are completed, making this the definitive hard mode experience for GTA Vice City. And just like with Tightened Thrice, there's quite a few new additions to the game across the board, even outside of the main mission structure. While not as many as Tightened Thrice, you're still gonna have plenty of new vehicles to discover across the map and even unlock from missions. And there's also that outfit mechanic that allows us to cycle through many of the new digs that Tommy's gonna be able to wear throughout the game, including some exclusive drip, but we'll talk about some of those a bit later. But one of the things I omitted from my coverage of Tightened Thrice is that these mods have an autosave mechanic that's built in to help as a checkpoint of sorts. Now, that's not to say that they have the same checkpoint system mechanic from the definitive edition, which is arguably the only good addition to that trilogy, but it does allow us to get an extra save in between missions, just in case we might already be in a good spot or we're prepped enough for the next one. Which, by the way, my tip for everyone with this mod and even Tightened Thrice with this autosave feature is that the saving mechanic in these classic GTA titles is dependent on you being outside of a vehicle. So my suggestion is that if you happen to complete a mission while in a vehicle and already have a good amount of health and ammo, just drive all the way to the next mission, exit the vehicle next to the marker, and bam, now you have a save right in front of the next mission marker, which can very much come in handy if you're looking to complete this mod with a bit of finesse and speed. Because just like with Tightened Thrice, this mod has also been made with speedrunners in mind. However, I feel like Tightened Vice leans a bit more into the speedrunner type of mod, because in some cases you may have to use some speedrunning tech to complete certain missions. But we'll talk about some of the missions here in a bit. I wanted to take a second to actually talk about some of the new music that you're going to be hearing on the radio. There's some new 80s tracks that can be found across a few of the stations throughout the mod, for stations like Fever FM, Flash FM, and a couple of others. And there's also some different punk tracks that have been added to like V-Rock, really giving off some classic Tony Hawk vibes on some missions. And there's also quite a few tracks added to other stations that I don't really want to spoil, but they do really add a bit more flair to the radio stations in this game. But on top of that, there's also 2 new radio stations in case you get bored of all the other stuff that you've heard before, like Party Cruise FM, which is going to bring the Muppets Party Cruise music to the game and adds a bit of a comedy flair to our escapades in Vice City. And then there's DISTANTCRY Radio, which, I mean, if you've ever heard of DC's music before, it's some of the worst tracks ever purposefully made. And it's kind of wild seeing it here in this mod, because it really clashes with the 80s vibe quite a bit, yet I find it pretty hilarious sometimes. Now, there are many other additions throughout this mod as well that I have yet to cover, like some of the new additions to the map that in some way add a bit more variety and flair to the coastal town of Vice City, and are also used for a lot of the new unique stunt jumps that are found around the map. But thankfully though, weapon and armor placements haven't been touched in this iteration of the mod, which is good because you're gonna need a lot of ammo throughout the entire story, and I felt like that was a conscious design decision. However, not only can a lot of those new discoveries I mentioned before be made by just exploring Vice City and seeing what it has to offer, but there's also a ton of new additions throughout a variety of the missions that you'll play in the main story as well. So without further ado, let's talk about some of those missions, shall we? So right from the start of the game, after Tommy lands in Vice City and the deal that he goes to complete shit, you'll notice right from the start that things are a little bit different.
Face, go get some sleep. What are you gonna do? I'll drop by your office tomorrow and we can start sorting this mess out. Have I done this before? Can't remember.
Well, seems like Tommy's going through a bit of deja vu. And not only is our path ahead of us blocked, but it's snowing down here in Florida. Who would have thought? Plus, this is not the only time it snows in this mod. In fact, it's a random weather that seems to show up during the worst times in missions for me. And it's a pain to drive through half the time as well. But we also learned that Tommy had his Weetabix this morning, and we can now magically sprint indefinitely for the rest of the game, just like in tightened'reas. But once we get settled into town and let Sonny know the scoop of what's going down here in Florida.
You better not be screwing me, Tommy, because you know I'm not a man to be screwed with.
After a brief visit to Ken's, we get changed up into a nice suit for a party and spot a
nice bike
to head over to the party with. Then once we get acclimated to the local clientele at the party by Mercedes, we of course take Mercedes over to the pole position. But once we get over there, we're greeted by a bunch of her father's bodyguards this time, waiting right outside the building for us to take us down for some reason. And they're all strapped with M4s ready to just shred us. So I just mow them down with the best weapon in the game, a vehicle, and collect all their weapons for later missions down the line, because we're gonna need them. And once we drop off Mercedes, we become a big man with a big W. After this, our boy Ken Rosenberg suggests that we meet Ken Paul to give us a heads up on who's running the drugs around here in Vice City. And he points us in the direction of a cook that we need to take out and steal their phone. But after leaving the club, the bouncers didn't quite like how we handled one of their customers inside. And thankfully, I was thinking a bit ahead when going to mow down the drug dealer with my car, because I had a feeling that the guy would be in a slightly different spot than he originally was in the game. And I guess I just chose the right alleyway because I was still able to take this guy out no problem with my car. But after we meet Lance and the chef's posse rolls up, they roll up with some shotguns this time around. And also, oops, one of the chefs just took off with Lance's ride, so now we gotta chase down this asshole all the way back to Well-Stacked Pizza, take out the rest of the cooks, and then get Lance's ride back to him, just so he can drop us off back at the hotel down the street. Nice. Once we meet back up with Ken for a third time and scare the shit out of him.
Oh, for God's sake, it's you. Oh, jeez. I'm gonna need new pants.
We then set to scare some jurors so they don't plead their case against the Forellis. And while we mainly get a hammer on this mission, you better be strapped beforehand, because the jurors are gonna have some protection that you'll need to get past, with both of them having random pedestrians with shotguns ready to blast your ass as soon as you get anywhere nearby them. And you'll notice that with quite a few missions that have been reworked is that there's gonna be a ton of new enemies to encounter on these missions. And also, since we're in Florida, I guess, everyone seems to be strapped with the biggest guns they can find half the time, with some later missions having multiple enemies wielding assault rifles and even M60s, which can make a lot of the later missions way more intense. And will need your full attention at times just to get past some of these enemies, or they will tear you down in a matter of seconds. And speaking of later missions, let's skip ahead a bit in the story to see what else this mod has to offer. In the mission 4 Iron 5 Head, we're tasked with taking out a rival real estate mogul for Avery over at the country club in town. And if you've ever done this mission, you know that it's way easier to do it if you can get a gun past the security gate at the entrance. And usually you can just hop the gates pretty easily by jumping on top of a vehicle and pretty much just jumping over the fence, totally bypassing security to keep your guns. But the mod author thought it would be pretty cheeky to place some very on-the-nose advertising on these fences to block us from getting over. But the solution location is in the mission's name. We gotta use our 5-head strategy to get past this fence. By taking a bike around this corner and just slamming into the fence, Tommy just barrels over, being able to keep all of his stuff. And plus, most of the enemies are also gonna be strapped, so I'd suggest camping out a little bit just like I did, and you could take them out with a rifle for a quick and easy solution to this one. So hopefully this helps out somebody in the future, because you'll need to think a bit out of the box with some of these missions. Plus, if you're wondering if that RC plane mission, Demolition Man, you know, the one that's notoriously known for being like one of the harder missions in the game, is it even harder now in this mod? Yes. Yes, it is. Not only does the RC plane feel like you're flying a dodo this time around from GTA 3, but as you get higher up into the structure, there's gonna be multiple enemies with shotguns just waiting to take you out. So you gotta be extremely careful on this mission, and also make sure to turn on the frame limiter to avoid any FPS issues with the RC plane. But honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would have been, and I was able to complete this mission after just 2 attempts. And like I mentioned before, I'd suggest for this mission and for many others as well to use the frame limiter that's in the options, as you'll need it for a lot of the RC missions and pretty much any mission that has you driving a boat. Honestly, if you don't mind frame rate at all, just keep it on the whole time that you play through this mod, as it might make the experience better because various things in the engine are tied to the FPS. So again, if things ever get crazy or too tough, maybe just crank it down to 30 FPS and see how you fare for some of these missions. Jumping a bit later down the story when we start working for Diaz, he has us follow a van to expose a rival gang's hideout. And now that we know the location, it's time to dive into one of the most well-known missions in the game, the Nam Phim 86. Now this mission typically has Lance flying us over that entire gang compound we just drove to, while we blast everyone from the side of a chopper with an M60. And it's typically a fun turret-based section where you mow down everyone pretty easily. But like I mentioned earlier, we're not gonna be the only ones strapped with some of the biggest hardware in the game. Pretty much the whole gang got the memo and have an entire arsenal of M60s and assault rifles just waiting for us to fly by in our chopper to take us down like they're skeet shooting, which easily makes this basic turret section into one of the harder missions of this mod. Granted, you'll notice the chopper's health meter goes pretty much off the screen, which you would think would help in this instance. But because everyone has laser accuracy with their weapons, you have to be on point with your aim on this mission, or you will fail it over and over and over again like I did. So knowing where these M60 dudes are placed at is vital to surviving this mission. Plus on top of that, we still gotta recover the package on the roof of the building after we take everyone out from the chopper. So we gotta fight tooth and nail past a ton of assault rifle wielding enemies that are placed in strategic spots around the house and make our way to the roof. And just to add a bit more to the mission, the briefcase is up here on this balcony that you can't just easily jump on. So good luck getting a vehicle up here, or if you were lucky and didn't shoot the barrels on the roof, you can move them over to this spot and jump over the railing to pretty much get it. And if you're wondering what took me so long with this review, then you have this mission and a few others to blame for this taking a while. But anyways, a couple missions later working for Diaz, he tasks us with getting the fastest boat around so we can use it for a later mission. And from this point, from doing Diaz's missions, you might have already been taking Diaz's Infernus to get to your destination for each mission, as I pretty much did this entire playthrough so far, just like I've done in all my past playthroughs. And while I was on the way to pick up this boat for Diaz in his car, the mission just randomly failed on me, just because Diaz got his feelings hurt because I keep taking his damn car. I about died laughing at this part because it was just so unexpected. Good one on you, Dinosaur Bite. That was fucking genius. But anyways, after that, once you get to the docks where the boat is stationed, it's surrounded with some guys strapped with Kruger rifles. So after you take them all out, it's time to get the boat and take off, right? Well, one of these guys at the docks basically snatches the boat right from under our fingers and just takes off. And the game gives us a sniper rifle and says, well, good luck. Now this mission had me stuck, but thankfully I remembered back to some of the Vice City speedruns that I've watched from time to time, and there's actually a way that you can get into this boat without even pressing the button to release it. So I redid the mission, got my own car this time around of course, and after taking out most of the guys in the area, I proceeded to hop this fence, that conveniently has boxes stacked up right next to it. And once I got as close as possible to the boat, pressed F, and then snatched the boat right off of its latches and took right off. So keep in mind, some of these missions are going to require you to do some speedrun tech just to get by, or to use your 5-head brain whenever possible. Or you can also look up English Ben's guide on this because it's also extremely helpful, and I've used it for a few missions here and there. I'll link it down below and put a tag in the video. And again, shout out to English Ben for taking the time to make a mission guide for these mods. It's much appreciated. Now, I'm not going to cover every single mission of the game, or we'd be here for quite a while. However, I do still want to talk about some of the side missions and even the property missions we get throughout the game, because this mod author, like I said before, left no stone unturned, and they've changed up every single aspect of the side content that you can experience throughout Vice City. And with many of these jobs having new ways to be completed, you can expect the game to pull some fast ones on you if you're not too careful. Like with the ice cream parlor that you can purchase later in the game, for example. Once we acquire the Cherry Popper ice cream shop, we can start making deals with the truck that's parked in the driveway. Plus, we get a sweet new outfit that's a clear homage to Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal. But once we start the mission, the game tells us we gotta watch out for a rival business that's looking to take us out. And it's the damn rusty brown donut trucks. They're out for our blood. So on top of watching out for the cops when making deals, you gotta watch for these quick boys as well. Thankfully though, it's only a handful of them, so it's not too rough. However, I wasn't sure if I had to make 50 deals like in the original game, or if you had to do more. So I was basically panicking from 50 deals and beyond. So I just made 100 deals just to make sure. And yeah, I might have overdid it, but I didn't want to risk failing it after failing a couple of other times previously. Plus, all the other businesses and the missions that are tied to them are also affected in one way or another. And that's just one example of the business missions, meaning you'll never be short of surprises this entire playthrough. And I mean, Vice City's already well known for having an insane amount of side content that you can get lost in. And every single piece of content has been delicately hand-tuned by Dinosaur Bite to provide an entirely new experience this time around. I mean, even the stadium missions have an entirely new flair to them, and so much more. It's kind of insane. I mean, even the side diversions like vigilante, firefighting, and even the paramedic missions have all been tweaked in several ways to add some more challenge. Like with paramedic, for example, not only do you have to pick up patients and drop them back off at hospital, but you also have to watch out for the local body snatchers trying to snatch up our patients and take them for their organs. So again, it just adds this extra level of challenge to these side missions that you don't see anywhere else. But on top of that, I have to talk about this great addition to the side missions, giving a proper change up to the taxi missions. Welcome to Gymnast Taxi. That's right, it's crazy taxi time. And the car that you use for this mission, man, it's extremely fast and agile, just like the car that's used in Crazy Taxi. And I mean, since this is basically Crazy Taxi after all, our fares aren't going to be quite as simple as you'd expect. And hell, there's even an outfit that you can choose in the wardrobe selection, which gives you the drip of one of the main dudes from Crazy Taxi. This mod has a ton of Easter eggs scattered around the story and even Vice City too. I mean, even some of the mission names throughout the game are subtle nods to speedrunners.
Oh, hey, thanks.
Of the classic GTA titles. And there's so much more out there to be discovered in this new take on Vice City. But also, I found that a lot of the fun of playing this mod is just discovering all these changes by yourself, because there's so many surprises around every single corner, whether it be an outfit you unlock referencing like some other property, or a few guys with M60s waiting for you around a corner. You never know what you're gonna get, because you're never gonna be short of an engaging experience when it comes to this game's mission structure, while feeling like a truly new experience throughout your time here in Vice City. If you're looking for a new way to play this 20-year-old masterpiece and want to do something other than just updating the graphics or something like that, then this mod might be for you. If you're looking forward to the series of this mods with tightened'reas, I'll leave a link down in the description below for the mod author's YouTube channels. Their second one, Moonboy, has some progress videos for tightened'reas, and it's shaping up to be a fantastic romp to play through. But San Andreas is a pretty big game, so go support your boy if you want to see this ambitious mod released someday soon. Anyway, thank you all for checking out this mod and this video, and a huge thank you to everyone who has joined the channel recently here at BladeOpotato. Like, dude, I still can't even wrap my head around the fact that I'm over 1K subs at this point, but I have all of you to thank for helping me reach this goal. I seriously cannot thank you enough. And I'm so excited for the future of this channel, and I hope you enjoy what's to come down the line. If there are any other mods you'd like me to cover in the future, whether they be GTA mods or even mods for other classic games or just other games in general, let me know down in the comments below what you'd like to see. I got a few ideas of what I'll be covering next, but I'd love to hear from all of you and what you'd like to see in a future video. So please let me know. And of course, like the video, all that jazz. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, so that way you can see whenever I upload, all that good stuff. And again, thank you for all the support and helping me reach my goal of hitting 1K this year. It's been fucking awesome to see. Anyways, I'm gonna get started on my next project, everyone, but until the next one, I will catch you next time. BladeO out.